What's up, everyone? This is Mike coming to you live on another episode of One and Done. Today is a very, very special episode. We have with us here today the king of Pokemon himself, or to me, honestly, he's just a king in general, Mr. Gary. How are you doing, Gary?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for being on. It really is a pleasure to have you on. Can't wait to talk to you about some fun topics, I hope.
Sure.
Yeah, let's kick this thing off. As hopefully our listeners already know who you are, but just in case they don't, why don't you give us a little bit of background on who you are?
Well, I guess the main thing I do is Pokemon. So I've been doing Pokemon for 25 years, since I was in Japan exclusively. And then I've done, a lot of things over the last 25 years to help promote the hobby and to bring attention and, to Pokemon. And so that's pretty much, what I do.
Yeah, it's crazy to believe that it's been 25 years.
Next year is the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
The Pokemon Company is going to be doing a lot of stuff, for the 25th. And so that bodes well for your collectors, and that it's going to be a good time for the collectors next year, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what better way to come back from COVID than to celebrate the 25th year anniversary, right?
That was sweet. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's a great way. With 25 years being it's a quarter of a century, right? I mean, it's a lot of years of Pokemon, and it's gone by so fast. It almost feels like Pokemon is just getting started, I'd say. There's just so much going on and continues to go on with Pokemon. It really is amazing.
Yeah, the enthusiasm is really not that much different than it was in 1999, which I remember very well. The frenzy to get cards and packs, and then the other day, one of my good friends here in Las Vegas went out like 2 weeks ago, went out to get the new Pokemon release. And there were lines in front of the Walmarts and the Targets, and
yeah,
it was almost like it was 1999 all over again. The popularity is there, and now next year it's going to be even more. It's just an unbelievable franchise.
100% agree. It's the highest grossing franchise of all time, I'd say, at this point.
It is
worldwide. So it's
yes.
it's unbelievable how far they've come and how they still continue to be very, very popular.
Right.
You mentioned about some of the things that you did. I know some collectors out there, it's having a shop is their dream almost. I can imagine. I'd love to have my own shop and just constantly surrounded by the product that you love to collect. As someone like yourself who actually did that, would you say it's a worthwhile business to actually realistically do these days, or it's not like it used to be?
Are you talking about a brick and mortar shop?
Yeah. Well, I guess today
or online.
Yeah. I guess today there's a lot of different ways of doing a shop, but I guess just what are your thoughts on the whole dream of owning your own shop and doing this?
Well, I went back to I'm from the West Coast. I'm from Los Angeles. I live in Las Vegas now. Spent pretty much my whole life on the West Coast. But I went back to Columbus, Ohio in early 2000s and opened a shop, a collectible shop. Had more than Pokemon, but it was a collectible shop. And it was during, there was a little lapse in Pokemon at the time. And there was a big lapse in sports cards because of the steroid problems. Sports cards fell off. Pokemon was going down a little bit at the time. It was kind of a tough time to struggle through. And then me being a California boy, and that snow that there in Ohio, I couldn't get used to that cold weather. So, a combination of those things. I took it for 2 years. I was average, a little successful, not much, but it was certainly fun. And my biggest problem was that even though I had a big eBay presence before that, from 1999 on, I, kind of put everything I had into the store, and I neglected my online presence and business. And that's a good point, for you and your people to know. The one bit of advice I gave Rusty from TCA Gaming, the one bit of advice when I talked to him before he opened up his store a couple years ago was, don't let your online presence change. Stay just as active with your eBay. Don't cut back on listings. Keep that going full blast, because that is safe. That's going to be there, and it'll help support your store and that. And so I learned that from experience, because I didn't. I put everything I had into my store in Columbus, and then realized, I should have kept my eBay going, and so, that was a lesson learned. When you get to a point where you can get into a store or something, don't leave stuff behind. Take it all with you and utilize it all together, because it could make the difference between making it and not.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. Was that the store that you had when Pokemon first came out, or was that a different? Okay, so you've had multiple stores in multiple locations then.
No, I didn't. And when Pokemon came out, I had a little business going, but I didn't have what was big. It got big because of Pokemon, but I had a business going, but not a store or anything like that. It was all done. It was all done through through dealing with Media Factory in Japan, and dealing with Wizards of the Coasts here in the States, and but it wasn't the store. The only store I opened was that one in 2002.
Got it.
So
Got it.
About.
That's super interesting. When you look back and think about owning the shop, what would you say is one of your favorite memories from that experience?
Well, probably because it being Midwest, Eastern Coast, the people were all different. The community was nothing like Los Angeles was. To give you an idea, when I took the kids out, like for Halloween, every single house was decorated. They had people hiding in bushes. I mean, entire communities, were into it, and they were into stuff like that. Where in Los Angeles, you could walk 3 blocks to get to the next house that was giving away candy, and that. So I guess the best thing I took out of it, was really the community spirit. The high school football teams, a lot of the kids were my customers. The high school football teams, everybody attended, and so I really miss that. I really wish that that happened more often this day and age, in these other towns.
Yeah, no, I'm actually right there with you. So I'm from California as well. And it's definitely not like that.
No,
so I can relate. I can definitely relate.
If they're hiding in the bushes, it's not to give you candy.
Exactly.
What part of California are you in?
So the Bay Area.
Oh, that's right.
Northern California.
Okay.
But I've, being from California, I've definitely gone to LA many times.
Sure.
Even Vegas, actually, I've been a few times. So.
Well, next time you're up this way, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly, I envy you. You don't get to pay as many taxes as I do. So.
I know. Yeah, we have no state tax. That helps, right? I don't know how you guys do it.
It's tough. It's really tough. I mean, I was actually talking to Zeke about, in today's day and age, doing a brick and mortar with cards in California, it's just so hard these days.
It might not be possible.
Yeah, it's extreme. Like growing up as a kid, I kind of took it for granted that I think it was like 3 of them around me, and all of them carried the product that I enjoyed.
Yes.
But today they're all gone, and you barely see any left. And it's just one of those businesses that with California being so expensive, it's just hard to keep up. So,
well, we get a lot of your former residents come up here to Nevada.
Yeah.
They always
Yeah.
have to retire, but now they're coming up to do business. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I
there's
don't
a
know
lot
what
of
you guys are
opportunity.
gonna do. Yeah,
There's a lot of opportunity in Vegas, you know,
there
tax
is.
wise, and, you know, entertainment wise.
Yes,
There's just, yeah, Vegas has a lot going for it, and I'm honestly not surprised.
right.
So yeah, so that's definitely jealous of you, Gary. Definitely jealous.
Yeah. And it doesn't
So
have to stay that way. It doesn't have to stay that way either, because I grew up in the heart of Los Angeles, and it didn't used to be that way. You
I
know,
agree. Yeah.
it was a great place. I mean, I did have a business back in the late '70s, a video television store called Video Village, and it's right when the VCRs came out, the Beta, Max, and VHS, you know, recording machines came out that you hooked up to your TV to record.
I don't think most
stuff.
people even know what a Betamax is anymore. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just such a forgotten technology after it lost to the VHS.
Yeah, there was a big battle between Betamax and VHS, and Sony was behind Betamax, and it didn't matter, you know. But anyway, it was a good time to open up that business, because it was right when that stuff came out. So, and RCA was heavily into VHS, and that's what our store centered around back then. And so anyway, it was a great place for doing business, you know, back in the 70s and into the 80s. But then, you know, starting in the 90s, it started to, you know, get difficult. I don't want to claim to be an expert, you know, political person, but I mean, I believe that it could go back, you know, if handled properly by our politicians, it could go back to being a successful, thriving place. There is no more beautiful place in the world, you know, no question about that. Has everything, you know, that you would want aesthetically. But boy.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like you've always kind of had that entrepreneur spirit.
I have, and collectible spirit.
Yeah, yeah.
All the way from a little kid. I was born in 1954, and I remember in late into the 50s, 1959, I was 5 years old and collecting Dodger baseball cards, and my heroes were Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale and Vince Scully, who was their announcer. And
yeah, of course, very famous.
And so and I collected all their stuff. You know, I collected their card bottle caps. They used to put their faces inside of bottle caps, and so I've always been a collector at heart. You know, a diehard collector, and a major Dodger fan, and which I still am, which is a good time for us right now.
Yeah, I was about to say. Things are going well.
Yes, true.
Well, and now you have a football team too, so I don't know if you follow football, but
yeah, don't tell me what happened. I know the game. I have the game recording right now.
I didn't watch it. Well, you know, up in the Bay Area, we don't get the Los Angeles games. We get San Francisco. So
yeah, right. But I know a lot of you up there are interested in how the Raiders do. So
yeah, of course. That's very cool. So here's a question for you.
Yes.
Let's fast forward to 2020. You know, with COVID and everything going on, I was gonna say wildfires, but I think that's more of a California West Coast thing, not a Nevada thing. But you're probably getting some of our smoke from it. But generally, with all of these, you know, challenges going on in 2020, what have you been doing to kind of keep your sanity?
You know, I kind of hate to say it, but I've really been totally unaffected by the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah. The one thing I've had to do is, you know, with my wife studying so hard for her master's degree in child development autism, I've been our 6-year-old's teacher. I've had to do that remotely, like a lot of people are having to do. So I don't really have the temperament or the patience to be a good teacher, but I try. You know, unfortunately, it's just a 6-year-old, so I understand the study material.
Right.
But yeah, I would say it's actually, you know, benefited me if nothing else, because you know, with the price spikes going up, I've been really super active buying and selling stuff and adding things to my collection. I've added so much stuff that I've always wanted, and fortunately, nobody that I know has gotten sick. No friends, no family. Nobody's gotten sick that I personally know, so that's fortunate.
Yeah.
And so, in all honesty, and again, I hate to say it, but if nothing else, I've benefited by this downtime. And so
Well, that's great. Good for you. That's
yeah.
very good. What speaking of price hikes and things going up, what are your thoughts on our government, our lovely government,
Uh-huh.
deciding to print money out of thin air? And what do you
Yeah,
think
I
that
know that hurts
those
a little, doesn't
impacts?
it?
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
that's kind of been the out, for as far many years back as I remember, and then usually there's an adjustment and we get it back to even. I think during the Clinton years, I think we got back to even, and then I think with Bush Jr., we went up to like a 9 trillion deficit, or a nine
We had
trillion.
a surplus under Clinton, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. Under Clinton, he got us to a
Yeah,
surplus. Yeah.
yeah. Which these days it's unheard of to ever even get back there again. I think,
Well,
but
now I know. Well, Bush took us to nine
yeah,
trillion.
yeah,
Obama took us to 20 trillion.
yeah.
And Trump, though, I guess you can't blame him for all because of this coronavirus and that. Now it's like 25 trillion. Yeah, eventually that printing money, it's almost like you don't have an end in sight. Now it's not going to affect me at my age, but you and your kids are going to be affected by that. So, what's the answer? I guess we just hopefully got to vote in people that are going to correct, this part. I mean, it's nice to do all these other things, but if you print money that's not there, that's a killer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it kind of feels like we've actually seen some of those effects on the hobby, right? Uh, so I mean, people suddenly have this extra disposable income,
Yeah.
and things start to inflate. It's kind of scary how the trickle effect, even touches the Pokemon collecting hobby. I mean, honestly, any hobby at this point seems like
But it
everyone's
certainly
kind of
does. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's a good point.
It's definitely been fascinating to see these effects,
Mhm.
even in our hobby.
Right.
With Pokemon doing so well, us talking about the 25 years and how the demand and popularity is still there. Um, you know, did you know back then that Pokemon would still be a force today?
Fortunately, I'm old enough, or unfortunately in some ways, but fortunately, I'm old enough to have personally seen, and being a collector, paying attention to trends. And I've seen a lot of trends. I've seen the positives and the negatives, trends. In 1999, I had never seen anything like what happened with Pokemon. It was 2-3 times what, the enthusiasm and the effect on the economy and the effect on kids, and it was 2-3 times more than anything I'd ever witnessed before. And so, yes, I had an idea that Pokemon was going to be long lasting. And
Really? So
yeah,
what
oh,
made you think it
absolutely.
wasn't going to be like, I mean, I hate to say it, but like Beanie Babies, for
Right.
example?
Yeah, which of course I lived through. And
Yeah, I
uh
was there for that too.
yeah, Beanie Babies. Also with Pokemon, the market being young people, being kids. Those kids are going to grow up and they're going to be the doctors and the lawyers. They're going to have the money. That helped. Things like Beanie Babies and some other hobbies like that didn't really
Pogs.
stand much of a chance because
You
of,
remember Pogs? Pogs was
oh
another
yeah,
one.
Pogs. But like
Yeah.
for Beanie Babies, it didn't have much of a chance because of it was mainly marketed to housewives, and housewives are already grown up, and they're going to move on to something else. So yeah, see, I knew, and also the guy who was running the the Beanie Baby companies, he was a real crook. I mean, not necessarily a crook, but he was a real gangster type. and it was all calculated, and he put so much into it being, being a great collectible future investment, send your kids to college, and it never had a chance. But people not as aware as me and not in the business and used to it, seeing these trends, we knew it was all BS. And then with the sports cards, with the steroids coming out with sports cards, that really, really hurt the sports hobby. And so a good example of that is I went to UCLA, which is in Southern California. Our crosstown rival was USC, the University of Southern California. And even though they were our hated crosstown rivals, one of their players, who was a hero to a lot of us, was O.J. Simpson. And so I collected O.J. Simpson rookie cards. I had autographed pictures. I had all kinds of stuff of his. And then suddenly he goes through that problem in the mid-90s, and all of his cards, all the value just went down to absolutely nothing. And I had a ton of it. So one thing I always like to say is that Charizard's never going to molest children or kill people. So I think we're in good shape, with Charizard. But you can't be so sure with some of these other, collectibles and what people might do.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't remember where I heard it, but with sports cards especially, you have the risk of the player getting injured and essentially his career is over, right?
Yes.
Or there's some kind of scandal that happens outside of his career that also, right, ends his career, reputation's tarnished, yes, all those things. Whereas with like something like Pokemon, Charizard's not going to sprain his ankle. He's not going to, no. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's one of those things that it's a safer bet for sure, because a lot of these like external variables aren't there like there are with sports athletes, unfortunately.
True.
So yeah, it definitely does make for an interesting perspective on going after sports cards for sure.
Right.
Would you on the topic of Pokemon, I know you've already been asked before what's your favorite Pokemon, which I believe is Venusaur, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So I thought what would be fun is to ask you instead, what's your least favorite Pokemon?
Okay, I have an answer to that.
Okay.
I actually have a very solid answer. When me and the boys, in 1999, when me and the boys were buying packs and opening up a bunch of packs and collecting, and at the time my sons were like 8 and 9, something like that. We opened up a whole lot of base because that's what came out first, and that's what was there.
Yeah, of course.
And it seemed every single pack we opened had a Devolution spray in it as the rare. You're hoping for a holofoil Charizard or a Blastoise. It seemed we had a stack like this of Devolution sprays, and it was so annoying. So I think if you were to ask me or either one of my sons what their least favorite card was, it would probably be that Devolution spray, because we got so fed up with that card.
And ironically, today even that card has some legs to it. So
it's got some good value. Yeah, PSA 10 first edition Devolution sprays are worth some money. Oh
yeah, if only those stacks were still around now.
Right. Because that's another thing, we rarely played, and so we kept all our cards in good condition. So
yeah.
And plus, I was a collector before that with sports cards, so I knew about top loaders, I knew about card sleeves, and so that was a good thing. And I didn't let my kids take them to school because there were always problems at school. Eventually, they banned most of those cards or they banned Pokemon from the schools because of problems in the playground and stuff like that.
Yeah. I actually remember that at my school as well. It was just such a competitive thing that it became an issue.
Right.
It's those days you were very fortunate to have the foresight and collecting experience to know about those things. Like for me and the kids that I played with at school, we didn't know any of those things. So we just fingers everywhere, just holding cards, showing to friends, not really thinking ahead about these cards might be worth something someday. Let's keep it in a sleeve or something.
Right.
But we were also fortunate. It's looking back, it's crazy. Being on the West Coast, we also had first edition, and
Yes.
so for us, we took that for granted because we had no idea that first edition was limited to just certain markets. And so for us, that's all we would see in the store. And so we would just take them off the shelf, beg our parents, please spend a few dollars to buy me that pack. And we just tear it open, show it off to friends, trade them with somebody else. Oh man.
Yeah, that's true. We were lucky on the West Coast, and I took advantage of that. I went all over trying to get those first editions, knowing that was important. Plus the Jungle, when it came, they rushed to get the Jungle series out because they flat out ran out of anything base. And so the first editions ran out right away. And then they rushed and got the next run were no symbol Jungle cards, without the little Jungle lily pad symbol, and which are worth a lot of money today. Those came out, and we got a whole bunch of those. I looked for those because I liked sports errors, so Pokemon errors were right up my alley. So the proximity, to Washington where the cards were made, that really helped us on the West Coast. We ended up with a lot of beautiful binders.
Yeah, you definitely went through great lengths, and it worked out very well for you. So
it did.
Well, since you've been following the Pokemon card game since the very, very beginning and know it very well, I've always wondered, do sealed first edition base cases exist?
Well, one exists that I know of. I doubt there's any others because I've paid attention and I've looked out for those for 20 years.
Yeah.
And somebody was saying on one of our forums that a lot of people have 10 boxes of first edition base. They just hide them away. And yet the person who says it is a very highly respected person because it's a high-end collector's website, E4.
Yeah.
And I think he's a moderator there in that. And I got back and I said, listen, I don't know one person that has more than one box besides myself. I don't know one person. I said, who are these people that have 10 first edition base boxes? Because I want to know. And so, no, I think it's really safe to say that there's no cases. There's no first edition base cases. Certainly, I would expect there to be base unlimited cases around.
Yeah.
Though you don't
I've always
very much.
I've always wondered, first edition, even just the first edition box on its own being such a, at this point, such a mythical thing. Is there a case out there? A sealed case of first edition base. It's something I've always wondered.
I have one sealed case that
really first edition base.
Yeah, I actually have 9 boxes, and the one case I have, half the flap is opened because I
just naturally opened
what was on the inside, but you can't get the boxes out through half the flap being opened. There's pictures of those around, but I don't know anybody else that has more than one. Somebody recently told me they had 3 and sold 2, so that would leave them with one
case.
So, one box.
One box. Yeah.
Now, would it surprise me if there was another case around? No, but with the prices what they were, it flushed out almost everything. It flushed out almost everything that was hidden away. Especially after I did the Pawn Stars video. Yeah. Because people that weren't into Pokemon saw that and they were going, "What? Pokemon's worth that?" And that got them scrambling, looking through their basements and attics and to see what they got. And so I wouldn't doubt me if there's some hidden away somewhere that people don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes it an interesting find, right? If you do come across one, but it's so incredibly rare,
right?
It definitely. I think the 25 years that we've come, I'm sure it's flushed out a lot of that product. So the odds these days, and everyone's after it. I mean, I don't know if you were following it, but we just had a first edition box, not a case, a box, go for 200,000 on Heritage Auctions.
In fact, that guy is going to be here at my house this week. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah, I was about to
Yeah.
say. So Logan Paul, he even officially came
Yeah.
out and told everyone that he was the winner of that auction.
Right.
So that, I mean, yeah, that's it's unbelievable just to see how huge Pokemon is, and
Hmm.
200,000. It's amazing. So if there are any cases out there, that's yeah, that would be mind blowing. I mean, obviously besides the one that you said that you have. Um,
Yeah. Well, mine's not. Mine will never hit the market. So
yeah, yeah. Have
I
you
had
ever thought
somebody.
about?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you thought about giving it to your kids, passing it down, or what would you do with it
Yeah.
once?
That's definitely what I'll do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Are you adopting any new
Unless,
kids?
huh?
Are you adopting any new kids?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's something that I always meant to do, and I kept a whole bunch of things with that intention. So it's almost like I never actually owned them, but I just had them, for, for things that would come up, after I was gone. So uh,
Yeah.
now, am I saying that I would never sell them? No, I would sell them, but it would take a catastrophe for me to have to. So, which I don't foresee.
Yeah.
There's some things more important than a box of cards, but not many things. And it would take something, personal catastrophe to have that ever happen. So
Well, it's a good thing you're not living where all the fires are.
yeah, I guess so. But you want to know what's funny? My storage locker, that I keep my main collections is actually in Northern California.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's in Placerville, near
I don't.
Sacramento.
Okay, so more
Yeah,
north than Bay Area. Okay.
yeah, near Sacramento. And my other stuff is here in Las Vegas, but that's stuff that I'll sell and buy and trade and
Yeah.
things like.
So do you like see yourself going there a lot of the times, or is that just something that just sits there and you don't even know it exists kind
It
of
just
thing?
sits there, and I go there
Yeah.
maybe once every 2-3 years.
Oh, very rarely. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I didn't
Although I
realize
have a
that.
lot of people who want me to go, who want to do videos.
I mean, it
You
almost feels like a treasure hunt, kind of like you don't know what kind of amazing things you'll find when you get there.
somebody compared it to King Tut's tomb.
Yeah. Have you?
It,
I
it
mean,
would
have
it
you?
would be it would be impressive. Yeah, it would be, especially these days.
I wouldn't doubt it. Have you ever considered relocating it just because of everything that's going on right now in California?
No, no, because it's a highly specialized storage facility, and
Okay.
it's paid off for a lifetime, and so no, no, absolutely
Okay.
not.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I would hate for it to all like go down in ashes and all of that history is lost or anything like that. That would
I
be the
know. Every time I
worst.
hear about those fires,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do a Google search on views from space to see if they grew any new trees in the area or
Be like, no, don't grow those
right.
trees. No, no, I totally get it.
Yeah,
So here's another fun question for you,
yeah,
and you may have already talked about this, but for some
hmm,
of our listeners that may not know,
right.
um, being again in Pokemon for so long, have you ever seen a pre-release Raichu in person?
Okay, yeah, that is not only a good question, but that is a really difficult question for me to answer. Let me see how far I can go. The fellow who purportedly has one is a really good friend of mine, David Person, and he's in Northern California.
Oh, gee.
Uh, and there's a picture of it. Scott claims he actually took a picture of it and claims it's real. And in all these years, I've said that there's no real ones. They're all fake. They're all, if there is any, they're fake. They're easy to put those stamps on and
Yeah,
blah blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah,
Mainly
yeah.
because I wanted to get that one message where somebody would contact me and say, "Oh no, oh no, I got this, and I would do this," and then back then PSA would have authenticated it. Now they won't. So
Do you know why?
My friend David Person, who has one, he can't get it authenticated, through PSA. So
Do you know why?
yeah, because there's no documentation on it. There's no,
Okay.
in other words, some guy at Wizards of the Coast at the factory could have taken some Raichus and the pre-release stamp, there's nothing unusual about it, and stamped a whole bunch of cards if he wanted to. And so PSA needs more than that, to authenticate it. So I'm the reason it's so hard to answer that is because my good friend has one.
But you haven't seen one
real,
yourself.
And Scott claims it's real, and it very, very likely could be. But in all these years, I've tried to flush out a second one and have never been able to. So is it a one-off? There's all kinds of speculation. I'm just going to say, I love and trust my friends, but like Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify, right? I'd have to verify it.
Yeah. So it sounds like
it's funny. I have a mic. If I could get it, I might be able to verify it because I have a very high-end microscope, and I can use that to verify it because I have other examples of those at the time when they were stamped. And there's some microscopic things you might be able to look for. I would love that opportunity.
So it sounds like you have yet to see it yourself in person, but you've heard. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's been one of those unicorns that you hear stories of it, but that's how far it goes. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
It's pretty obvious that collecting's in your blood. Are there any other hobbies outside of collecting that you do?
Over the years, I've done stuff. I used to love bowling. I used to love golf. I did all those things. Now, then I got married, had kids. Of course, that takes up a lot of your time.
Sure.
And then I retired, but then I got married again and had another kid. And so that takes up a lot of my time. So I don't have a lot of time for new things. I love going to competitions, to Pokemon Worlds. I'll be going to England next year. And, this past year in DC, I was there. I go to the regionals with Leon Hart and mess around with him in the Dallas regionals each year. I love doing things like that. And, you only got so much time. So that's where I spend all my free time is doing stuff like that. Pokemon related conventions and, local stores that hold events and things like that.
Very cool. Very cool. Speaking of Pokemon TCG, would you say there are any other up and coming TCGs that you keep your eyes on or that you've kind of been watching on the side?
You see, I've been nothing has ever been like Pokemon, like I said before, but I've been a card collector for 50 years, going back to sports. And then, I could show you one of my lockers. I either have or used to have every single trading card release ever put out. And we're talking about thousands and thousands of of card sets. And going back to the 1960s TV shows, like the Munsters and Addams Family and, going on with a lot of the 90s releases, comics in the 1960s I collected like crazy, the Marvel and DC comics. And but the trading card sets, I have just collected every single one, and 95% are worth absolutely nothing, right? But because they just aren't. You look on eBay and you see a lot of 5,000 for $80, and that's the majority of my stuff. But I loved back then collecting them, and I had my binders, and I would cut up boxes to make decorations on the binders, showing what's inside. And Magic the Gathering, all the other ones that didn't make it that were like Magic the Gathering. I have all those sets. I don't have an alpha or beta Magic the Gathering set though. I didn't get into it until 1994, and I didn't get those sets. They were hard to get even back then. But yeah. I would say the trading card game. I have them all, loved them all, so I have a pretty good idea what might end up being worth something. And what my guess would be the closest thing to Pokemon is Yu-Gi-Oh! Dragon Ball really seems to be doing well. So I would say Yu-Gi-Oh! and Dragon Ball are nice things to hang on to right now that get better and better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that desire to be like a TCG completionist. Are you still doing that today as well, or have you kind of toned that down and just narrowed down on?
I've had to tone it down because Pokemon just took up so much of my time and so much of my life and so much of my effort. Effort has gone into promoting Pokemon. Yeah. And I've pretty much let any new series and things, just without me, just because, and only because I don't have the time, or the energy to do too much. I am 66, and so I can't quite just jump in the car and drive to Oregon or just searching for cards and stuff like I used to do. So now it's pretty much all Pokemon promotion stuff.
Yeah. Well, speaking of age, we can wrap this up with one last question.
Yes.
What would you say are some of the things on your bucket list, if you have one?
Things I would still like to do.
Yeah.
It's funny you brought up the pre-release Raichu. I would like to own one of those. That's on my bucket.
I thought you were going to say see it, but looks like your goals are set much higher. You actually want to own it.
It's always been to own it, and that probably won't happen because they probably don't exist. And I hope that gets out and somebody with one says, "Hey, King Pokemon, wait a second, I got one." Right? Other things I'd like to do, it's kind of boring stuff, but with my little girl who's 6 years old, I want to make a plan to every year go on a Disney cruise with her and my wife. So that's something. I haven't been on a cruise since many years ago when my father was alive, and I went with him just to keep him company. But I love cruises, and I love cruising, and the Disney cruise, there can't be anything better than that when you got a little kid. So I would say that's on my bucket list, to try to get on a Disney cruise as often as possible. My wife and I were just planning one yesterday, so that's what I'd like to do. And then just to keep doing what I'm doing. I'd be more than happy not to set any new goals. Just keep doing what I'm doing. Just promote Pokemon and spend time with the family.
Well, you've definitely been doing that, and you've been doing a great job, honestly. And can't thank you enough, Gary, for all that you've done, all that you continue to do, and even just taking some of the time out of your day today to talk with us. So,
well, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it because you're a young man. You're going to carry the mantle, and this hobby would be nowhere without people like you. So I actually appreciate you putting in the time and effort it takes to do these podcasts.
Thank you. That actually means a lot.
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks again for your time, Gary. This was fun. I hope you had a good time.
I did.
And would love to do this again with you soon.
That's the deal. Let's come back. Let's come back to see how right we were about everything.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Thanks to everybody.
Yeah, thanks to all listeners. Hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. And we'll talk to you next time. See you later, guys.